UFC Fight Night saw Ciryl Gane take on Alexander Volkov in a UFC heavyweight showdown. And as with, a lot of the weight divisions, the UFC heavyweight division is popping. It's really an interesting time. And the winner of this fight, depending on how it went, really lays claim to the throne and to potentially what's the next fight. And here is the reaction video for the fight, Ciryl Gane versus Volkov. Please, guys, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. My. Ciryl Gane, we have something here. And I think a lot of the sentiments that, I'm going to echo in this reaction video really are, the sentiments that I kind of gave when I saw Ciryl take on Jairzinho, in that he has a lot of dynamics in his striking, a lot of dynamics in his game that really is going to present a lot of problems for a fair amount of heavyweights here. Obviously, at the top with the likes of Francis, it might be a different story because that guy's got power. He has got, Super Saiyan power in those mitts. But Ciryl Gane versus Volkov, a really, really interesting fight. Both stand-up fighters. And in the first couple of rounds, especially the first round, it was a feeling out process. Alexander Volkov comes out like a bat out of a cage with pow, pow. You could hear it. The leg kicks, really heavy leg kicks. And I'm thinking, wow, he's come in. Volkov has come in, to not play. He really wants it here. But, as time went on, you could see one of two things. One was Ciryl Gane has immense speed, pop in his strikes, especially that jab. It just comes out like a cylinder, like a piston. And a lot of heavyweights are going to have problem blocking that. A lot of heavyweights are going to have problem adjusting with the speed of the strikes. And, when you fight a striker or fighter that has the length of Volkov, you need to get in. And I think what Ciryl did really well was he was able to navigate that, in between, distance in terms of coming in, dealing the damage, coming out, and not necessarily absorbing a lot of damage, while dishing it out. And the diversity of strikes that Ciryl is able to employ is really, 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 really impressive. Really impressive for a guy his weight class. He mixes things up. He went for a couple of takedowns. He had a couple of single legs. He transitions very well, and was giving Volkov, throughout the entirety of the fight, fits a lot of problems. And, going into the fourth and the fifth, you could see, by just the optics of the fight, who was getting the majority of the damage. And Ciryl was comfortably in this fight. Like what Ciryl did well was, again, just the amalgamation of different techniques coming in and out, and these little pops of explosion. I think, for a guy as big as Ciryl, he's pretty bouncy, pretty light on his feet. He changes stances a lot. He really does have the full repertoire from a striking sort of perspective in terms of the kicks. He was able to show a lot of things to Volkov, who is, in his own right, a very accomplished striker. I mean, we saw what he did to Overeem. We saw what he was doing to Derek Lewis for most part. And there were rounds, you could say round one, maybe you could say round four, where, Volkov was having success, and a guy with that sort of length and with that sort of power is always going to have, parts in a 5-round fight where he shows some success. But, for the most part, the offensive diversity from Ciryl Gane really is a sight to behold, especially at the heavyweight division. And it really overwhelmed Volkov. For the most part, Volkov was pedaling on the back foot. Ciryl was leading the dance. And I think, especially in a striking-based fight where it's going to be like that, I think Derek Lewis threw out a bit of shade and said it was a karate sparring match. But in a match where it's going to be there, Ciryl was first to the punch. He was dictating the pace. And that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do when you are the shorter fighter. And he's not small by any lengths of the imagination, but obviously Alexander Volkov has that advantage in most, if not all, fights that he enters the octagon too. So it was really interesting seeing that both guys were chopping at the bits in the leg kicks. And I think just because, Alexander is not necessarily, heavy on the lead foot per se, not necessarily bouncy, that we didn't necessarily see the dividends of that pay off, at least from, an optics perspective. But they slowed him down. And, over time, he was just eating punches. And it was fought at a very measured pace. I think what's interesting is we give Francis Ngannou a lot of credit for his fight against Stipe Miocic, because he was finally able to figure out the pace to fight in which his body could kind of, adjust to. But Ciryl Gane, in the last couple of fights, he's really adjusted to that. I mean, the only thing you could say, which might be a little bit of a criticism, is does he have that killer instinct to potentially try and finish fights? I mean, he was throwing it. At this level, you can't necessarily take a lot of risks because he is up there. I mean, what's to say that he lays claim for the next fight against Francis, the winner of Francis and Derek Lewis? What would be a great fight, and I think is the fight for Ciryl Gane against Stipe Miocic. If John Jones is not necessarily going to step up, if he's not going to fight this year, that fight makes all the sense for both guys. A title eliminator. Come on, Stipe. Stipe was there for a long time. He deserves a first crack, but if they're not going to give it to Gane, I think it's a perfect fight. Gane is on the come up. He's showing a lot of things there. A win against Stipe Miocic makes it definitive. You cannot say that if he beats Stipe Miocic, he doesn't deserve a shot for the title. And for Stipe Miocic, it's a good fight. It's a good fight for him. Ciryl Gane doesn't necessarily have the power, but he has, the precision and the speed, and that's going to be something that Stipe is going to have to contend with, and it'll be good to see if he can bounce back against a contender such as Gane. And to me, that writes itself. As for Volkov, he goes back a couple of pegs and figures out what to do here. But it's really exciting. It's really exciting when you see these new talents emerge. And the heavyweight division has for a while needed a new injection of talent. And France, step up, guys, because you have a heavyweight contender. That was my reaction, guys. Again, MMA Life TV. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, give us some comments below. What do you think about Ciryl Gane? Is he the next heir to the throne for the heavyweight division, guys? As always, we hope to see you on the channel soon again.